What if you have never ever engaged in relationship fundraising? You want to, you know, your organization needs major gifts, especially now, to be able to survive and hopefully thrive. And you know you need to raise these big dollars. Well, today I'm going to be talking about the first 5 things that you can do and you should do if you've never engaged in relationship fundraising. That's our focus. Let's huddle up. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark, the Fun Coach. I'm Mark Duncan. You know, it dawned on me that I don't think I've ever done an episode where I've talked about the first 5 things that you should do or can do to start when it comes to relationship fundraising. The first things that you should do. And considering all that is going on right now, the challenges that a lot of organizations are facing around funding across the board from all different aspects of philanthropy, including federal and private support that comes from grants. Now more than ever is the time to be focusing on individual giving and especially relationship fundraising to secure those major gifts. So today I want to talk about those first 5 things that you can do to begin. Now, number one, and all of these things, by the way, that you're going to hear me talk about are things that I have mentioned in previous podcasts, but never all in the same episode. So, this is a really great opportunity for me to sort of aggregate everything, mostly everything that comes with relationship fundraising into one episode. Now, number one, this is a must, and this has to do with your mindset. Now, I often talk about your money mindset, talking about your first money memory, so that you can understand the emotional impact, or more importantly, understand the relationship that you have with money. And the key here is understanding that and understanding that the relationship that you have with money is yours and does not belong to any of the donors that you're going to be talking to. So, one exercise I often do or ask folks to do is to be thinking about their first money memory. And what does that take you back to? Maybe it's um, allowance, or maybe you've watched your parents have conversations about money. Maybe you were budgeting to save to buy something as a kid that were saving your allowance, or you were working around the neighborhood, or whatever it was that you were doing. And all of that time, you were actually building a connection, a relationship with money. Now, the question is that relationship with money positive, or is it a hindrance or a barrier for you? And that's one of the things that you need to look at and understand first. Because once you understand your own money story and understand your relationship with money and become aware of it, then what you need to do is to recognize that it's yours, set it aside, and think about the people that are being served by your organization as you move through this process. Because at the end of the day, you are a conduit. You're a conduit between those wealthy individuals that are waiting to meet you, build a relationship with you, trust you, and then ultimately give you a gift when you ask for it, and the people that you serve. That's how you have to see yourself. So understand your money story. Understand that you need to get into a mindset of being that conduit, being that vehicle between the people that you serve and those generous donors that you're going to be building relationships with that will ultimately give. But if you are starting this process and you have thoughts like, who would give to us? Why would anybody give to our organization? What's so special about us? There's so many organizations out there, so many to compete with. So who would give to us? Right. And a lot of those thoughts are actually connected to you personally, not your organization, not your mission, right? They're connected to you personally. Those doubts, those fears, those concerns, the lack, the worry, all of those thoughts, I guarantee you are connected to you personally. Because if you have a positive money story where your relationship with money doesn't evoke fear, lack, worry, all of those emotions, but it evokes confidence and abundance, and there is enough, right? Then you're going to have a different outlook, and you would not be having the thoughts that I just mentioned earlier. So get to know your money story, get to know your relationship with money, understand what is at the root of that, be aware of it, process it, own it, and to make sure that you don't project it or transfer it to those donors. Okay. So your money mindset, getting that, that's the first thing that you need to address, because once you have that, the rest of this is actually pretty easy, right? Once you recognize what that money story is and that it's yours and yours alone, the rest is really, really easy. Number 2, identify your top 20 prospects. Who are those people that may have already been giving to your organization through transactional fundraising efforts? We talked about that in a previous episode, whether they gave through direct mail or email response or whatever, right? Take a look at those folks to discern who your top 20 are. A couple things to think about. If you've been around for a little while and you're looking at your donors, take a look at those people who are what I call your loyals, right? They've given to you for 5 years consecutively or more. Those are your loyals, right? Those are people that truly appreciate your organization, appreciate your mission, appreciate the work that you're doing, trust you as an organization. Hopefully they trust you as a leader. So that's a criteria you want to look at. Ultimately, link, interest, and ability is what's going to help you identify who those top 20 are. Now, you may be looking at me and saying, well, how do I know what the ability is, meaning their capacity? And that has to be done through wealth screening if you want to know for sure. So I would encourage you to engage in wealth screening to discern who among your existing constituents, your existing donors, has capacity, who has a net worth of $1 million or more. And the only way to do that is through Windfall. And that is an organization, a company that I've been associated with for quite some time. They do wonderful work. About 95% of my clients subscribe to that service, and it's a difference maker. It really is. It cuts out all of the guesswork. That will help you identify your top 20 donors. If you do not engage in wealth screening, Then there are other things you could look at, like your loyals. Maybe there's information that you know about some of your donors as it relates to their capacity based on previous giving to either your organization or other organizations, right? So you can actually do a little bit of research to discern where they may fall. But if you really want to know from a capacity perspective who those folks are, wealth screening is the way to go. Now, link and interest, obviously the link is already there. They're already connected to your organization because they have given. So there's the link. Interest. This is what you are going to be developing as you develop those relationships with them, is understanding what they're interested in about your organization and leaning into that particular interest or growing their interest overall in the organization, so that when you solicit them and as you're building that relationship with them, you'll know what they're interested in by the time you actually ask them. Okay. So that's how you find your top 20. And the reason why you want to focus on 20 is because that's a manageable number, especially for executive directors who are working for small to mid-sized organization, maybe like you, who don't have in-house fundraising support. 20 relationships is a good place to start as it relates to managing those folks. So identify those top 20. You can be confident. Now, it's not as though all of those people are going to give you a major gift, but the likelihood of them giving you a major gift is greater when you do the work to identify the top 20 individuals. Number 3, I often talk about my relationship fundraising method. I'm not going to get into that in detail today. If you are interested in learning more about that and your organization that perhaps cannot engage in one-on-one coaching with me, I would encourage you to look at my Relationship Fundraising Academy. Check it out. I won't give you the details here. Just go to my website, thefundcoach.com, and you'll see at the top Relationship Fundraising Academy. And you can take a look at that and see if that's something you would be interested in. But it is a monthly membership program. The cost is just $79 a month. And for all of that, you get my course and all the things related to the relationship fundraising method and so much more. So check it out. Okay. But what I want to talk about here in terms of number 3 is you should build a relationship plan, not a solicitation plan. Let me repeat that. You should be looking to build a relationship plan, not a solicitation plan, right? And the reason why, and this is why I call this relationship fundraising and not major gifts fundraising. Yes, that major gifts is the result of what happens when you engage in relationship fundraising. That's the thing that you get toward the end. But the important thing about this is the relationship. You want to get to know these donors, and you want them to get to know you as a leader and to know the people that you serve and the impact that you're having on them. And you want to know what makes them tick, what's important to them about what you do. So you're going to build a plan that is focused on understanding that and building that relationship. So yes, the first thing you're going to do is to schedule an opportunity to meet with them, whether that's coffee or lunch or whatever. And that could be at a location that is relatively neutral as a first visit. And then maybe the next visit is you bringing them on site if that is applicable to who you are as an organization. If you have a place where you can show off your mission in action, then by all means, take advantage of that as part of your relationship plan, that you're building. So it's all about getting them closer to the mission, closer to the organization, answering questions that they have, listening for the questions that they're asking, and listening for opportunities to have a better understanding of what's important to them. Asking those clarifying questions when they say a statement or make an observation. And if that is telling you that they're interested in learning more about something, ask them, would you be interested in learning more about this particular program? Right? This is about them. You've heard me talk about the platinum rule before. When we're talking about building a relationship plan, that has to be at the foundation. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. This isn't about you. It is about the people that you serve, but it's also about the donor's interest and desire to give to your organization. Because when you do that matchmaking, when you make that connection, things will go very, very smoothly. So build a relationship plan, not a solicitation plan. Number 4, you need to have absolute clarity. And I did a podcast episode on this too, about your fundraising priorities. What are you raising dollars for? Many of you are listening to this, watching this, and saying, well, we want unrestricted funds. And absolutely, that's the whole reason why relationship fundraising for annual operations is so important. Because most of the time when we talk about relationship fundraising, we're only talking about a capital campaign. So many organizations that I know that engage in relationship fundraising when it comes to a capital campaign. And when the campaign is over, all of that stops, right? And then they don't go back to it until another campaign, which is 3, 4, maybe 5 years down the road. Don't recommend that. You're dangerously close to taking what is meant to be relational and making it transactional when you're only leaning into relationships when you need something big. You should be presenting your donors with the opportunity to support your mission every year. So, as you move through this process, crafting a compelling case for support to be able to tell your story clearly about your mission, what you do, what do you need, and those needs that you have, right? This is where the unrestricted piece can be very creative. Those needs that you have should be needs that are already in your operating budget. So you can talk about specific programs. You can talk about specific pieces of equipment or anything that is in your budget that may be a match for that donor's interest. And you can ask for dollars to support that. But first, you have to have clarity around your story as an organization, what your needs are, and to be able to convey those needs clearly to your donors as you are meeting with them. And so I would say put something in writing. And again, this is not necessarily something you need to distribute. We talk about case statements, and that's pretty commonly used when it comes to a capital campaign. I recommend that you create one for your operations, but it isn't something that you're necessarily going to be distributing. You see, a case for support is kind of like your map, right? It's a document that clearly outlines who you are as an organization, what's important to you, what are your needs to be able to deliver on the promise that you made to the people that you serve, and to be able to solicit a major gift to support that from the donors that you're going to be meeting with. right? So not necessarily something you do strip, but it is something you can pull from to create a brochure or to create a letter or to create something on your website around giving, right? But there has to be clarity around it. It has to be very, very clear and consistent. And everybody on your staff needs to be aware that this is the script, right? This is the document. This is where everything that we need sits here. Anything outside of this is not something we're going to be asking for. Because if you start asking for things that are not in your operating budget, it's not going to help your bottom line, because that money will be restricted to that gift and if that to that particular purpose rather. And if you ask for something or somebody gives to something that you don't need, a new piece of equipment that you didn't plan on getting for another 5 years or that you don't even need right now, and a donor's insistent upon making a gift to pay for that, and it doesn't help your bottom line at all. It's something that you're buying that you don't need right now. And at the end of the day, it's just going to be an added thing to your budget, not something that exists in your budget now. That's why you have to have clarity around your priorities and making sure that it's a compelling case that you're making so that people understand and can be excited about what you're doing. Number 5, lastly, but most importantly, because this is where the true action takes place. Got to make your first ask. You have to make your first ask, even if it's imperfect. So often when I'm working with my one-on-one clients, we have this conversation. Sometimes it goes on and on about, what do I say when I ask? How do I do it? What if, what if, what if, what if? And at the end of the day, if you work through the process, if you work through the relationship fundraising method and you get to that point where you're ready to make an ask, you should be in a situation where there's such comfort and trust between you and that donor, especially that donor trusting you as the leader and the organization as a whole to deliver on its promise. That means they're waiting and ready to be asked. They're along on this journey with you. They understand that you are going to ask them for a gift. In fact, many of them may even ask you, are you going to ask me for money? Right? This could happen on your first visit. And one of the things I always say is that when somebody asks you that, are you going to ask me for money? Your response should be, at some point I'd love to talk to you about ways that you can support our mission, but not today. Not on this visit, but somewhere down the road. Right? Because again, you're building a relationship plan, right? You're not meeting with them to ask them for that gift right away. Now, some will be insistent on knowing what the ask is for, and you can navigate that. But ideally, you don't want to make that ask on the first visit, but you do want to make your first ask. That's the point here with the 5th thing. When you get to that point, don't overthink it. Again, back to the first item on this list, and that is understanding your relationship with money. Sometimes that stuff's going to creep back up. Those fears and those doubts are going to creep back up, but those are yours, not the person sitting across from you. Recognize that, set it aside, think of the platinum rule, and just ask. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It's a conversation, it's a relationship. Perfection, in my view, is the enemy of progress. And when we're focusing so much on being perfect, we're actually impeding the progress that our organizations need. And most importantly, the people that are being served by them. So even when you get through all of this, it is so important for you to make that first ask. Just do it. Just do it. And regardless of their response, you did it. Now, if you do things right, one of three things will happen. They'll say yes. They'll say, I need time to think about it. And then you follow up. Or they'll say, I can't do that, but I can do this. Right? I can't do 25,000, but I can do 20. Right? Notice I didn't say that one of those responses would be no. And I'm telling you, if you get this far, which is why you want to focus on the relationship as a plan and not a solicitation plan, if you get this far, you're not going to get a no. You just won't. If you do, I mean, it's very, very rare. You missed something. Because no doesn't mean no to you, no to the organization. No typically means not now. That means your timing may have been off a little bit, which means you may have missed something or you weren't listening clearly or understanding where they are right now in that moment. That's why the relationship is important. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you've not engaged in major gifts before through relationship fundraising, hopefully this is helpful to you. If you want to talk more, go to my website, click the green button. Let's hop on a call. But until then, as always, this fundraising thing, it's never about the dollars. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. Thanks. And we'll see you next time.